That's sounds lovely. A holiday in Srinagar and having a birthday party. I think we're all set.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, Nivedita, last time we were discussing my program for visit to the United States.
Yes.
But before I continue with that, something cropped up, which was very important, and therefore I'll talk about that first.
Yes.
Now, I went to America toward the middle of October, but this was late September, early October, when I was sitting in my office with some program of meeting certain visitors. And then my military assistant, that's my staff of Brigadier V M Kapoor, who's from my regiment and later retired as a Lieutenant General. He spoke to me on the intercom. He said that the head of the RNAW, there is a Mr. A.K. Verma, and the head of the IB, that was Mr. M.K. Narayanan, who later became the National Security Advisor to the Manmohan Singh government. They had come to the office wanting to see me. So I said, all right. He came into my office and looking very grim. So I said, what's the problem? So Mr. A.K. Verma, the RNAW head, was keeping quiet on listening watch, as you call it. But Mr. M.K. Narayanan, who was the head of the IB, he was talking. He told me that, General, we've lost Kashmir. So I said, I don't quite understand what you are saying. What do you mean by lost Kashmir? He said, well, there are thousands of people out in the street for the last 2 weeks, and nobody obeys the curfew laid down by the Farooq Abdullah government, which is from 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning. And they refuse to go back to their homes. And they're all shouting, Azadi, Azadi, Azadi. And they're leading processions day and night to the United Nations Military Observer Group, who were observing the ceasefire between India and Pakistan in Kashmir on the line of control. They're going to that office to say, please tell the UN to come and take over Kashmir because India can't manage us and we don't want to be with India, we want to be under the United Nations. This is 5 of his intelligence officers, senior officers who were posted in Kashmir, who daily report what was going on, had been shot dead. So he said, I have no intelligence. My 5 officers have been shot, and all the intelligence officers and material and communications have come to naught. Doordarshan has stopped and gone away. All India radio disappeared from the scene. We don't know what's happening. And so I think we've lost Kashmir. So I said, could you please define what is the meaning of lost Kashmir? Because my army is over there, and how do we lose Kashmir? So he said, we're a democracy. Since all of them don't want to be ruled by us, by India, and they all want to be ruled by the United Nations, not Pakistan, United. We want to be independent. So how can we rule over people who are unwilling to be ruled? I said, look, sir, you're only a mere intelligence officer, not for you to make up your mind as to what we can do and what we can't do. Your job is to just provide intelligence. So you tell me that your intelligence is nil, that your 5 officers have been killed, and that you're at sea, you don't know what's happening. I don't want to hear any comments about whether we can rule them or can't rule them. That's not your job. So I said, have you gone to the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister was Rajiv Gandhi. Have you gone to the Prime Minister and told him all this? He said, yes. Both the head of RNAW, my colleague, and myself, we have gone to the Prime Minister, we've told him. So I said, what did the Prime Minister say? So they said, he said, go to the army chief. I said, did he send some instructions for me? Some guidance as to what we are required to do, or what does he want to do? He said, no. Prime Minister said, just go to the army chief. So I said, good. So the ball is in my court. I'll take over from here. So you people can go home and relax. So M.K. Narayanan, we call him Mike Narayanan because he's M.K. So Mike said, but General, what are you going to do? Got this. I said, it's not your job to hear what I'm going to do or not going to do. Your job is to give me intelligence, and you give me some very useless intelligence, which I don't believe in. You're talking absolute nonsense. And I have no intention of telling you anything about what I propose. Then Narayanan said, but the country is in danger and you'll be very interested to see what you're doing. I said, that's fine. You go home and keep your mouth shut. Mark, I told you earlier when I was talking about the IPKF in Sri Lanka that I had occasion to tell off the head of RNAW and the head of IB because they were passing intelligence to the Prime Minister, which was not true. And I, in fact, took control there and did what I had to do. So I was not very enamored of these two gentlemen. I said, I'm sorry, you people are incompetent and you go out of my office, but you keep your mouth shut. If you speak of this subject to anyone and I come to know, then we have to arrest you and take disciplinary action against you. So they had my hot coffee and they went away. Now, Nivedita, I have always believed that if you want to do something for this country, you have to do it firstly by getting a lot of cooperation from everybody else who's in the government. I explained about the Punjab problem to you, how we dealt with the initial stages of terrorism there. You have to get the bureaucracy, the politicians, the police, the IB, RNAW, and the police intelligence, which is the CID, together on your side, give them credit for anything that is successful, and keep your mouth shut about what you're doing, and take no credit for either yourself or the army. That is the way of success. If you take credit for yourself, there are hundreds of people who want to bring you down. In India, anybody who claims that he is very good has to be brought down. That's the law of nature, I suppose, all over the world. Anyway, so I decided that the corps commander in Srinagar needs to be changed. We have a corps there, 15 Corps, and it was commanded by a very good friend of mine who had completed his tenure, Lieutenant General Sami Khan. And Sami Khan was a friend of mine from Sherwood. I've told you a bit about his story earlier. So I rang up Sami. I said, you've completed your tenure, so I'm sending you to Lucknow as the Army Commander of Central South. So he was the corps commander, he's promoted to Army. He'll be very happy because his family comes from just north of Lahore. And the old Awadh family, they were Nawabs of the old days. It's a place called Rampur, which is north of Lucknow. And this family belongs there. So it's really his home area, I would say. So he's very thrilled to go there. And we sent Sami off the very next day to Central Command. Then there was another corps commander who was commanding a division in the east. And he had already been told by the MS Brass that he's shortlisted to go to Kashmir as the corps commander there. He was commanding a division. I changed that. I requested him to stay on in the east, and we gave him a four corps command in the east, much to his disgust, because he's very keen to come to Kashmir. But he's a Bengali, and this stage I wanted a Muslim commander to go to the 15th Corps. So I selected, in my military training directorate, I had a Major General, Abdul Zaki. And Abdul Zaki are four brothers. They come from Hyderabad. And all of them are Rim Colliers, RIMC, from my school. So, we Rim Colliers, as I told you earlier, are quite a brotherly. Air Force, Army, and Navy. And no matter which caste or creed you belong to, we're very close friends. And we all help each other. We don't have many brains, but we do achieve whatever we desire to achieve by sheer functioning at it without fear of favor. So I rang up Sami to come to my office. I rang up Abdul to come to my office. He was the DGMT in Delhi, the head of the military training. He was a major general. I said, look, you are due for promotion to Lieutenant General, so I am promoting you to Lieutenant General by tomorrow morning. And I want you to go to Srinagar and take over the 15 Corps. He said, thank you very much. So I said, there's a problem there. The problem is that nobody's obeying the curfew. And I want to, within 24 hours, to control that situation. And I find that every day the news of the crowds of Kashmir is coming on the American CNN channel. You know, we in India get the CNN channel on our television. We don't get the Fox News and other things, whatever the reason. And the CNN channel was every day showing the troubles in Kashmir, massive crowds, totally out of control. And their theme was that India had lost control of Kashmir, especially in Srinagar. Now I recollect when I talked to you about the collapse of the Soviet Union, 1989, 90, a similar television from Srinagar, television from CNN, was telling the whole world that there's no control in Moscow because there are billions of crowds there and there's no governance and everybody shouting and screaming and shooting at each other, and the state has collapsed. So this is a similar thing going on for Kashmir. Now, television is a very important thing, and news, rightly or wrongly, does affect the whole world and the opinion of the population of the world. So if your opinion is that something is collapsed, even if the government says it is not collapsed, you don't believe the government. You say, yes, it has collapsed. That's what you're reading or seeing. So I told Zaki, I said, look here, the CNN has to be controlled. I want to know how is it that something happens in the morning and by the evening news, the Americans are putting it out on CNN. So I knew that a thing called a satellite telephone had come in those days, the latest technology. So I said, obviously, there's somebody there, the technology of satellite communications. They're taking videos and photographs of the crowds and uploading it to the satellite, which is immediately downloaded by the CNN, and they put it on the evening news. Now, we in India didn't have that technology. So this is how the CNN news is creating problems in the minds, not only the Kashmiris, but everybody else in Pakistan, everywhere else. Pakistan was then, the president was Benazir Bhutto. And she was going around talking about Kashmir and saying Azadi, Azadi, Azadi. So the Kashmir crowd was saying Azadi, Azadi, Azadi. Azadi meant freedom from Indian rule. So I said to Zaki, I said, I want that stopped immediately. Secondly, I want all the crowds within 24 hours back in their home in a curfew to be followed from 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning. So you may have to use some harsh measures and you're welcome to do so. So he said, sir, would you please, will you support me if I do whatever I do? I said, yes, of course. Support. Whatever you do is because of my orders, and should something go wrong, well, I'll take the rap, not you. Secondly, he asked, he said, what's your guidance? I mean, how do I do this? So I said, it's very simple. You take 5 or 6 Jeep-type vehicles, fit them with machine guns on each Jeep, and a loudspeaker and a loud hailer. Send them into the middle of Srinagar and other towns nearby, Pulwama, Vagera, nearby, so having all these agitations, so many crowds in the street. You send them out in the morning as soon as you reach tomorrow. And on the loudspeaker, say, the army has taken over. Anybody not in his home as per the curfew at 6 in the evening will be shot dead. Now I must explain, Nivedita, that according to the Geneva Convention, this is not a legal order. You cannot tell the public that you will be shot dead. But the idea here is a bit of, what do you call it, bluff. You say you're going to be shot dead, you have a scowl on your face, and you look as though you mean every word that you say. It's not necessary that you're going to carry that. Anyway, Saki asked me, but supposing somebody doesn't obey this rule. So I said, you could just select one nasty fellow and injure him or do something, and that's it. Everybody else will understand that you mean business. Okay. So I said, then you will order the curfew to be thanked. So next morning, we have a courier aircraft from the Air Force going every morning to Srinagar. And Zaki was placed on board with his Lieutenant General's new rank. And he landed up in Kashmir and Srinagar. He had very good staff. I knew his BJS and 2, 3 other officers. I knew his chief of staff personally. They'd served with me. So I had already spoken to them. I said, you're getting a new commander. Please put your heads together and do what I'm saying. So they got the jeep fitted and they rushed around the whole of the nasty spots of Srinagar town and some others, loud-mouthing this business of the army's taken over. We mean business and everybody's not in his home by 6 in the evening will be shot dead. The result was that when time came to 6 o'clock, there was nobody in the streets and everybody rushed off into their homes and shut their doors and windows, and that was it. So next morning, nobody came out. Second day, again, nobody came out. I rang up Zaki. I said, Zaki, don't be so harsh. Lift the curfew. Because after all, they've been shut in their houses for the last 2 days. Why don't you now allow the people out to buy their food and rations and things like that? He said, I've lifted the curfew, but the Kashmiris refusing to come out of their house. So that was the situation. It took 2, 3 days for the Kashmiris to start coming out and buying their stuff. Anyway, we controlled the crowds in just a matter of 1 day. Now, Farooq Abdullah was the chief minister. We didn't say anything to him. The head of the police was informed by Zaki that he's going to take over and requested his total police cooperation, which after some persuasion, the Director General Police of Kashmir agreed. Director General Kashmir did say that the Chief Minister Farooq Abdullah is actually running a daily conference for security purposes, and therefore we are all listening to him, including you. So Zaki told him, that's true, we'll go and listen to him, but we will do what we have to do to control the situation. It's out of control, and we want full police cooperation with us. So he agreed. Then we wanted to find out what was happening. Nobody knew what was going wrong. What was the motivation for it? Since there was no intelligence available, I moved 2 sections of what we have in an infantry division in those days. I'm not sure if we still have it or not, is a Intelligence and Field Security Company, INFS, Intelligence and Field Security Company, with each division. I had used some of these in Mizoram when I was commanding the brigade there. And these people are given money. They employ local people as agents, and they get information separately from the IB and the RNA. They're organized. Plus, we give them intelligence funds to pay these. So I moved from Sri Lanka, from the IPK, 2 sections of INF, Intelligence Field Security Companies, 2 companies, with our own IPK aircraft. Very next day, they were mounted in airplanes from Jaffna and Sri Lanka and landed in Srinagar. And we sent our military intelligence boss, who was Lieutenant General K.S. Khajuria. He was the head of the military intelligence and a very good friend of mine in a golfing party. So Khajuria was asked to meet the defense minister and the defense secretary and say that a certain amount of funds should be set aside from intelligence fund to the maximum of 2-3 crores for the purposes of this intelligence operation to restore intelligence in the valley. He did that, and I think the defense minister and the defense secretary were very accommodating and very cooperative, and they arranged this fund. Now, when you use intelligence funds, then every week a detail of how much money you spent on what accounts is given to the defense ministry so that they can oversee whether the expenditure has been done correctly or not. So we got those funds, and we told General Zaki that you've got these funds and these INFS companies are coming here. I want to know within a few days as to what is happening in Kashmir. Why is everybody out in the street? Why have they closed all their shops, and who was motivating them to do that? We also say something else to you. money is a very interesting thing. When people are reasonably poverty-stricken, a large amount of money is a very attractive gain for them. So even a mother or a father or a brother or sister will tell on their own relatives, provided you give the right price. As they say, everyone has a price. Now, maybe there's some people who don't, but most people, they have a price. So what's your demand? So I said, you go to any old lady in the town and find out what's happening. Why were they motivated to close their shops and shout at us? What is behind it? So within a week, we managed to get this intelligence after paying out a fair amount of intelligence money. And we came to know that it was the children of the parents. Now, boys and girls at the ages of 12 or 13 were quietly whisked away from the valley without knowledge of the governance, without knowledge of the IB or the RNA, whisked away across the line of control to Pakistan-held Kashmir, where they were trained for a number of months, given a machine gun, given ammunition, trained how to shoot it. And you know, when you're a child at 12 or 13 years old, you're thrilled to get a weapon and be treated like an adult. And they were informed that Islam is in danger, and so therefore we have to get rid of the Indian army from Kashmir, and Kashmir must be made part of Pakistan. Now you go back there and you force your parents to close their shops, close their homes, and get out on the streets and shout Azadi, just like Benazir Bhutto were doing in Pakistan for Kashmir. So they came back, and we came to know that these 12-year, 13-year-old kids would point a machine gun at their own parents and say, you jolly well close this house, get out on the street and shout at us, otherwise we'll shoot you. So we came to know that this was the scene. It took us another some 2 weeks to catch hold of some of these kids and to try and retrain them back. And I think by now they're part of the BSF or part of the army, they've been recruited. Now, if you look at this subject, what is the reason for it? My view is that the reason for this is poverty. It happens with all terrorism that comes out of Pakistan and perhaps inside India too. If you're suffering from poverty and you don't have a square meal every day, then if somebody offers you money to do something or the other, you're ready to take that chance. So when people are poverty stricken, chances of them joining terrorism, where they get money, weapons, and control of others, they have their own organization of it. You have, say, 7 or 8 terrorists under control of one man, and they infiltrate back and they do their thing. Yes, they may get shot or something, but at least they're living a good life. You can go to any village, do what you like because you've got a gun, you take any woman you like because you've got a gun. And so that's a heady business and very good instead of wondering where your next meal is coming from. This is the reason. And what is the answer to this? The answer to this is proper development. Development so that poverty is removed from the country and from particular areas of the country, which is slowly happening over the years, but it takes time. So we found that this is the scene, and we encourage people to come back into the streets and do their daily shopping, etc., but no shouting around and no disobedience of orders. Curfew every evening from 6 in the evening till 6 in the morning, similar to what we did in Punjab earlier. Now, the next question was, how did the CNN get all this information? So we found that there are tourists or local Kashmiris in the pay of CNN, an American news system, with satellite cameras to take photographs of the crowd and up. So what they did was, what the Corps did there, was that they to grab these cameras, break them, expose the film so that it is down there, and threaten the man that if you do this again, we will put you in jail. So uploading information to the United States. So that came to a halt. A large number of tourists were doing this. They have those, cameras with movies, uploaded the thing by satellite to the CNN, to I think those American agents use tourism as a means of checking out what's happening and sending it on the news and building it up with propaganda. So that came to a halt, and slowly we managed to get control. Then we found, General Zaki found, that there was a large amount of masti where the mullahs were shouting expletives against India and encouraging people to join the terrorists and to blow a bomb somewhere or kill somebody somewhere or throw a bomb at some police picket or something or the other. So I must give it to him. He should dress like a Muslim because he was a Muslim. And he used to attend these masjids for his prayers as a Muslim and hear what the mullahs were saying. And therefore, had a good idea where the next attack is going to take place, the terrorists. And then next morning, he would send his patrols there and scupper the attack, either by killing people or capturing them or what. So, the intelligence bureau told the Prime Minister, Rajiv Gandhi, that General Zaki is actually a terrorist. He is hand in glove with the terrorists. He goes to the masjids and he does whatever they want. And the army has sent him there as a corps commander. He must be removed immediately. So Rajiv had a computer. He sent instructions on the computer to the defense minister and the defense secretary that General Zaki must be removed immediately. And somebody sent for replacement. So then naturally the defense secretary rang me up and said, look, you have to take General Zaki out, bad choice. He's hand in glove with the terrorists, and hence we must get rid of him straight away and bring him back to some other assignment. I said, nothing doing. He's going to stay right there. So they sent me the copy of the Prime Minister's instructions, which I received. You have to obey this. So I sent that Prime Minister's instruction through the Ministry of Defense that came to my Adjutant General. I said, you answer this and tell them no. So he answered this, he's sorry, we don't accept illegal instructions from the Prime Minister. We are doing a job of work and we want no interference, all from you. That General Zaki has been correctly selected for a job and you let him do it. So then the defense minister called me and said, look, you have to do something about this. I said, I'm sorry, you people are interfering. I'm doing the job and I want no interference. To tell the Prime Minister, it's too bad. We are not taking instructions from a politician as to how the army should run. We are running the army the way we run, and we know exactly what's happening there. And whoever gave you this intelligence is incorrect. Please give us the name of the person who's giving you this intelligence and let us sort him out by the court case. So that cooled off. What is the sequence of this? General Zaki controlled that whole area of Kashmir for a couple of years as the corps commander. He did so well that the government, when posting came, requested me to say that please leave him there on an assignment as an advisor to the governor of Kashmir for management of Kashmir. There were 2 or 3 people. There was a bureaucrat. There was Mr. Habibullah. Habibullah, if you recollect, was the information advisor to the government in his time. And he's the son of General Habibullah, who was a very good general of the Indian Army during the days of General Tamaya when he was the chief. And we all know them. And Habibullah himself is a very fine officer who was also very wise as to how to run the governance of Kashmir. So he and General Zaki and a civilian bureaucrat who had been appointed, an additional secretary, were there as the advisors to the governor as to how to run Kashmir. After Zaki's tenure of 2 years, we had to post him to there. And by that time, Kashmir was totally set. So I think General Zaki must have run Kashmir totally. To allow Sheikh Abdullah to give his, not Sheikh Abdullah, but Farooq Abdullah to give his orders as the chief minister. The governor was a person called Jagmohan to give his orders as he wishes, but the army did exactly what it felt ought to be done. And I think it took us about a month maybe. We took full control of Kashmir. All India Radio was restarted. We also found that government of India was sending a large amount of money to Kashmir. Under this Article 370, which has been removed lately, Jawaharlal Nehru had made Kashmir a special state of India. If you go back to the days of partition, my study reveals that Sardar Patel, as the Home Minister, managed the whole of India to bring the princely states and other areas under the control of the single central government. Because when the British left, they thought of dividing India into 23 or 24 countries by making the princes fully autonomous, shall I say, join wherever they like. And that Mr. Jinnah, who was only 12% of the population of India, was given equal rating as the rest of the Hindu population, which is 85%. And even the Sikhs, we had Sardar Baldev Singh, was given equal rating as the Muslims and the Hindus, whereas the Sikhs were hardly 1% of the population of the country. This is the way the British wanted to shatter free India forever and run the economy of this country themselves forever. You can read so many more detailed stuff about this from any of the late history books, etc., which have been amended. It's a very dastardly thing to do, to give you political independence, but not economic independence. So anyway, we are very good, very lucky that Sardar Patel managed to get the rest of the country together. But Jawaharlal insisted that Kashmir and Sikkim would be under his personal control because we belong to his family came initially from Kashmir. So they said that I'll do it. And I think we made a bit of a mess of it by getting this Article 370. They really wanted Sheikh Abdullah to get whatever he wants. Sheikh Abdullah was known to Nehru's family right since childhood when they were with his father, Motilal Nehru, in Allahabad. Anyway, let's not go into that. The fact of the issue is that Farooq Abdullah, now the son of Sheikh Abdullah, was not carrying out any governance as such. He's a very pleasant man, a very good friend of mine also. And he gets on very well socially with everybody. But as far as governance of Kashmir was concerned, people say that he made a lot of money there. For instance, the Bandipur Reserve Forest, which I've been climbing with my family, even from younger days, when I was a captain or a major, full of these Jodar trees. Jodar is a beautiful tree. It's a conifer. And the Bandipur Reserve Forest, every 2 yards was a tree. When I visited Kashmir as a chief, this whole Bandipur hills were bare, all had been cut and sold. And people said that, well, this is what the government is doing, the government of Guru Mr. Jagmohan was sent as the governor of Kashmir. He's written a book of his life in Kashmir. He later became the culture minister of Vajpayee government. But Jagmohan went there and he knew me very well. And I, as the chief, visited Kashmir shortly after 2-3 weeks when Kashmir came under control of the army. I visited. I spent some time with, called on the governor, and I also called on Farooq. It was very interesting to know what they had to say. The end result was that even Jagmohan told me a story about the corruption in the Kashmir government. He said he wanted to visit Baramulla and speak to the students of the Baramulla College who were always agitating against the government. So he was advised by the Chief Minister Farooq not to go there. And he said, nonetheless, I insisted. So he went with his protection, etc., to Baramulla, to the college, to ask them why they were agitated. So he got the whole college on the ground and he spoke to them with the principals and teachers all present on the field. So he said, now tell me, what's agitating you? So one of the students got up. He said, this government is absolutely corrupt and we want to agitate against the government. We want it removed. So Jagmohan apparently asked them, why do you say that? What is that? He says, you see this track on which you have come from the main highway, that Srinagar-Baramulla highway, you've taken a kacha track for about a kilometer and a half or 2 kilometers, on which you've come here to talk to us here. So the governor said, yes. He said, well, this track is supposed to be a first-class tarmac road, but you can see it's only a kacha track. But as far as the Kashmir engineers and books are concerned, it is a first-class tarmac road for which normally crores have been spent, and it's done. This is corruption, because they have done nothing here. Secondly, he says, you see that field over there which is underwater and under, all sorts of nasty pools and things. So that field is supposed to be a cricket ground, all done up properly. And we can't play anything there because it's full of, daldal, marshy area and all that sort of thing. But according to the books of the PWD of Kashmir, it is a fully tarmac area and a very clean football field and all that sort of thing. So what do you expect us to do? We don't accept this corrupt government. So Jagmohan said that he told them, he said, all right, it is now September 89. In December 89, end of November, December, I will bring a cricket team from my government and I will take you on in cricket on that field. He said, is that a deal? They all started laughing. They said, first we have to create a field out of that marshy area. He said, yes, that's going to be done. So he got special funds from the center and put the PW on the job, and within 2 months created the field there. Tarmac road was done. And in late November, early December, he went with the cricket team, played against the students and beat them out. He told me this is the sort of thing that's going on here. Anyway, that's just an example I gave you. The net result about Kashmir, Nivedita, was that I think this agitation that was going on amongst the families was curtailed. We came to know that the students have been taken away. So the students were caught hold of and they're given put into schools and education and so on to create a proper view of the country. And many of them were, when they were promised that when you pass your examinations, etc., we'll recruit you into the BSF or into the local police or into the military, which is being done now. And the army did a lot of that later on in the years as they went by. The army opened a Sadh Bhavna sort of schools and systems where even schools were opened in remote areas, even Pitwal Valley, Tandhar Valley, Uri Valley, and other places in the outlying districts of Kashmir, to have teachers and give education to the local students. Education is vital, because unless they're educated, they can't get a job. So I think it came on the men. And at the end of this, I would like to say that this removal of Article 370, so that Kashmir is treated normally, is the best thing that is government. I mean, none of us thought that this was feasible, but it's been done. And Pakistan is hopping mad about this. So is America, so is the West. But India couldn't give a damn, as they say. It's our country. We can do what we like. China doesn't like it. Nobody likes it. But as the country becomes more powerful, we can stand up on our feet and tell people that we are going to do our thing, whether you like it or whether you don't, and you manage your affairs and don't interfere in ours. And the Kashmiri people are much happier now.